Welcome to episode 50, of the Liz McMullen Show, and I have a returning guest, the most awesome Jove Belle. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, I didn't know this was episode 50.
I know.
Hey, I feel fancy.
You are so fancy. Oh my goodness. You know, I always go to my spreadsheet just before I create the file for GarageBand, and I was like, really? She's episode 50? Oh.
That's super fancy. Thanks.
I was like, that's awesome.
It is.
That's really awesome. And just in case you're wondering why I'm a little more husky, this is early in the morning for me, but obscenely early in the morning for Jove. It's 9:08 here, and it is 6:08 by her. You're like the breakfast of champions. Like I can't imagine being up that early and being, I don't know.
So, I don't know. You just did math, so that was pretty impressive.
I know. I wasn't even sure if it was going to work out.
No, you got it. There was a little hesitation, but you nailed it. Good
job. And today is the day after Thanksgiving, so we're all a little bit groggy.
Yeah, a little bit. Hey, so where does Thanksgiving fall with Hanukkah? How does that work? Do you know?
I don't know, but I've seen all the posts about, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, or I don't even know how that's supposed to be pronounced.
I don't know.
But I'm like, Hanukkah,
that is... to be better educated about the religions of the world, but it's the day after both, I think.
It's terribly early for Hanukkah to be happening.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it intersects with Christmas. So I'm like, And today is Black Friday, and you couldn't pay me ever to go shopping on today.
No, or, there were people out shopping yesterday. I don't understand that. I don't get it.
It's obscene. I've had people ask me, "Oh, are you going to go to Women's Week in P-Town?" I'm like, "No, no, I am not." Because my partner and I, we like to go to Provincetown off season. And this summer, we went to the conference, GCL conference in Dallas, and we also went to New Orleans and Savannah on the way home, and we realized why we do not go on season for anything, because we hate crowds. I couldn't cope. It would never work. Yeah,
I get a little, cagey. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard, but what are you going to do? And next year, this upcoming year, GCLS is in Portland, so it's going to be in my backyard, so I think I kind of have to go.
Totally. We're going to go, and I'm actually happy because my partner will have lots of fishing she can do while I'm doing all my GCLS-y things.
Yeah, but you know that if she fishes in the rivers or the ocean, that you can't actually eat it because of the radiation now. Everything's coming out of the ocean completely filled with radiation.
Oh, no, it's the activity. It's the activity. She says it's the only sport I'll ever watch, and it's the thing that she likes to do. Oh, and if there's, your children are asleep, but my niece is up, and so you never know when I might get a knock on the door. It might happen during the interview, it might not.
The same thing could happen here. Lily's supposed to be asleep. Wyatt spent the night at his grandma's. Mm-hmm. So did Tiffany. So actually, last night when I left Tara's mom's, 4 out of my 6 children were spending the night there, which is awesome. 2/3 of my kids. So. Wow. Yeah. Well, but 2 of them don't even live at home anymore. So. Okay. But Lily could show up at any minute, so it happens.
Well,
my life involves children. Sorry,
1 or 2 of them. So you every time I had to open Love and Devotion, I had this song in my head.
Oh,
I'd like to know where you got the notion.
Rock the
boat. Yeah.
Oh, who is that?
I don't even know, but I know I tried to buy it and I couldn't find it anywhere.
Is that like Billy Ocean?
No.
No, I don't know. I don't even know
I
it.
have no idea, and now I have no idea. But when I was 22, after a night of clubbing, which in New York City ends at 4:35 in the morning, everybody would go to breakfast, and I remember distinctly these two women in the diner, two black women, and the song came on, and their bodies just like started moving to it, and it was just so I have this picture in my head always of these two women just like getting into it, like dancing to the song, and so I was like, all right. Oh, so every time I opened the ebook, it would pop up, and I was just like, love and devotion.
Right, now I gotta Google that or whatever.
You should.
It's on like Spotify, right? Let me.
Maybe.
I don't know. Spotify is like my go-to.
I'm sure it could be some. I'm like not helpful for that, but.
Oh, wait.
So you wrote a book called Love and Devotion, and I actually picked up the 3 or 4 times when you've mentioned those two words in proximity with each other, but it's in Texas. Have you ever been to Texas?
Yeah. One time. I was very young. God, I was like 18, so very young, and I went to visit a friend, and my biggest memories of Texas are I flew into like DFW, so I was in Fort Worth, but we went into Dallas too, and this was, like I said, it was a very long time ago. I was very young, and I got margaritas out of a Slurpee machine, which I thought was awesome. And I've since learned that that's not unique to Texas. You can actually do that anywhere. And downtown Dallas, at that time had no open container laws, and you could walk around downtown with your beer and drink it. So those were my 2 big Dallas memories.
Wow.
Memories. So.
Well, my first New Orleans memories was and I was underage, and I remember, I think it was like on the Riverwalk. And they had the same thing, the slushies with
just a fabulous way to serve a margarita.
I'm like, that's just awesome. And yeah, so yeah. So you wrote this book, and it's in a small town in Texas. What kind of research did you do to be able to do that, since it's not some place you've lived before?
Oh, you know what? I grew up in a small town in Idaho. I figured they couldn't be too dissimilar. And they're not, apparently, because that was really what I drew off of for the most part. It was just small town living in general, I think is pretty similar. And then I specifically found a beta reader who lives in that part of Texas, because that's where I am going to screw anything up. If I'm going to screw it up, it's going to be like the physical feel of the place. So Layden Michaels beta read it for me, and she's absolutely fabulous. And then the really cool thing that I realized after I set the book in East Texas, a small town in East Texas, is my editor, Shelley Thrasher, lives in a small town in East Texas.
Hot damn.
So I'm like, oh, I better get this right, or she's just going to hammer me. So there were a couple of things that she said, really, are you kidding me? And I changed them. So.
Well, and I actually read this, I beta read this a while ago for you too, and what was interesting for me was reading through it from what I remembered and how it changed, and I liked the flavor. I definitely felt the Texas part of it this time around.
Yeah, it was completely, I don't know. Wanted to say something clever right there, but instead my brain went, just somebody looked at the I don't know, sorry.
It's like, do you have to reboot that thought? Rebooting.
Yeah, something, I don't know. But the draft you read, I think, was pretty close to first draft. So there's usually some fairly significant changes from first to final. So I don't know, I always feel bad about the people who get my first drafts, because they're really just a whole bunch of word vomit in one place, and it just makes me feel bad.
Well, don't feel bad. I was stoked because I'm a fan, and I was like, oh my god, she has been married.
I've beta read for Kate Culpepper. And I have, and Kate and I are friends, and I still have that reaction to her. So.
Oh my God! She was one of my first guests, and I'm going to have her on again soon. And
she's so fabulous.
Oh my God! I just feel like going on my knees. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy.
I keep waiting for her to set up some sort of Tristane-esque lesbian commune somewhere, and I'll pack my family. I'll follow Kate into the mountains and live in a yurt. I'm down with it.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, she writes an Amazon series, and it's called the Tristane series, and is fabulous.
Oh yeah.
So if you have not read it, mosey on down to. I'm pretty sure that Bold Strokes Books has it, all of her books there. So you'll find them there, and I think they have some things packaged for ebooks. 3 for a lower price than if it was sold individually. So we have Love and Devotion, which I'll try not to sing every time I mention the title, but it's hard. It's hard. So we have Casey Hall, and one of the things that I noticed that changed from the first draft or so that I read of it is that she had a lot more depth, and I had more of an idea of who she was as a person. And yeah, she was doing something, as you said in the book, selfish and potentially a huge blockbuster, not only for Lonnie's marriage, but for the community, and especially her mother, who's best friends with the woman that she was stooping.
It was all scandalous, really.
Ugh. How did you come up with the idea for this book?
So, I was listening to the radio, or maybe a CD, but that's not the point. I was listening to Martina McBride. Martina McBride has a song, what's it called? When God-Fearing Women Get the Blues. Mm-hmm. Have you heard it?
No.
Okay, so it's all about this couple that have been together since high school, and the woman finds out that her husband's having an affair. Mm-hmm. And so she goes off in her Mustang, and she's, running around through. It's a hysterical song. You should Google that. Anyway. And I'm like, okay, but what if the woman was having her own affair, and it went from there. So, yeah, she runs away from her husband because she's all pissed off at him. And what if she, goes to her own lover, who happens to be a much, much, much younger woman? Mm-hmm. And so it actually started life not from Lonnie's point of view, but about Lonnie.
Okay.
And so, which is why I think I'm more sympathetic to that character than anyone who ever reads the book. Because I thought about it originally from, her point of view. But the book could never have been from her point of view. It could never have been about her. But the inception was.
So can you give, even if it's reading the back blurb, God, I just mashed up those two words, about Love and Devotion.
Oh. Things to say about Love and Devotion. So the main character, her name is Casey Hall, like you said, and she is in her early to mid-20s, and she is having an affair with her mom's friend, Lonnie. Mm-hmm. And she also has a best friend whose name is Emma, and through the book, she realizes that she's being a truly shitty individual, and then questions her feelings about Emma. And so the romance is really between Casey and Emma, but it's about Casey growing up and figuring out who she wants to be. Is that what you meant? Or did you want me to actually read the blurb? Because I could get the book. I could read the blurb. It would be cool. I could do that.
I loved Kendall. Is that how you say her name?
Yeah, the oldest sister?
Yeah, older sister Kendall. She was the shit.
She was a reality check for the book.
Oh my God. Because, Casey shows up on her doorstep, and eventually is crying in a little puddle about how heartbroken she is about being with Lonnie and that it's never going anywhere and whatnot. And she really was not simple. You're so selfish.
Yeah, Kendall is the person that every single one of us needs in our life. Like, we need somebody who loves us enough to call us on our bullshit in a way that, doesn't destroy us, right? So, yeah, my older sister was nothing like Kendall. But I wouldn't have minded if she was. Yeah. I really, really, really like that whole family. They were a lot of fun to visit.
I love their mom.
Yeah.
And she's really awesome because, well, I always enjoy, and I think this is true about Chaps, which is another book that Jove wrote. And I love where within a small town context, where you would make assumptions as to how parents would deal with a gay child, and neither of those mommies had cared about it at all. It was almost like, Mom, I'm gay. Okay, pass the potatoes.
Yeah. And I think it was in both of them. I think it was in their character and their makeup to care. Like, their daughters had every reason to think that they would care, but they're grounded enough to know that their children and their relationship with their children is more important. So I think that relationship, that character, that archetype character is based largely on my mom. And, she had some very, very strong, she's since died. She died about 3 years ago, but she had some very strong religious beliefs, but she didn't let them interfere with her relationship with me ever. So
I love that. And what I like also is that anybody who's not from a small town or not from a small town in either mid-America or in the South makes assumptions about the people who live in those communities, and that they would feel that there would be like rampant homophobia and, parents who couldn't accept or understand their children. And I was like, it's great to have these real characters in books where that's not the case and kind of breaks down stereotypes.
Well, I think that you're just as likely to have a parent who doesn't understand in the middle of Portland, which is an incredibly progressive city. Parents react based on their own experiences, not just the place that they're living. And, growing up in Idaho, where there's some truly fabulous asshats running around doing horrible things, sure, absolutely. But that exists here, too. Mm-hmm. So it definitely wasn't the rule of my existence. Like, jerks were rare. They didn't happen everywhere. So, I don't know. I think it's just important to remember that about life in general.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And because I come from, culturally, I consider myself coming from New York City. And if you ask people from other parts of New Jersey about Hoboken, they're like, that's not really New Jersey. And so I'm accustomed, even though my town that I grew up in is a mile square, it's also on the Hudson River, across the river from Manhattan.
Yeah.
And so we make assumptions as to what we think the South is or the Midwest is, and just the same as they make, we're not like a den of sin and criminality,
Yeah, but we should be. Damn it.
Because that makes for better books, doesn't it?
It really does.
So you have also a pretty serious subplot going on with Casey's little sister Trina.
Oh yeah, that girl. She just didn't marry the right man. I don't know. So Trina is the middle child because Casey is the youngest, and Trina's husband is, he doesn't control his temper very well. So, and I tried really hard with that to not be like trite or make it seem like it's an issue that can be resolved in the course of a book, because it's not. It's something that's going to be a part of her life forever. You can't have a child with somebody and not be connected to them for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. So, and those kinds of things in small communities and small towns I do think that is dealt with differently because you're more connected to the people around you. So, I don't know, that was yeah, I don't know. Was there a question? I'm just babbling.
Was there a question in there somewhere? No, I mentioned that there was a serious subplot and
talking about that, right? Like his abuse.
But besides the fact that Trina, who I'm remembering the birth order, I think when Trina was born, Kendall was 5 and Casey was 2, and so there's this kind of older sister thing where Casey needs to grow up. That's like a big theme in this book, Love and Devotion. She needs to grow the fuck up.
She really does.
And one of the ways that the subplot kind of helps along is she has to step up to the plate for her sister. And, Kendall and her go pick up Trina and bring them to Casey's house and, basically are helping her get over and past this. And what I thought also was interesting was at one point Casey saying, well, I can't do that because Trina needs me, and what if she gets back with her husband and all that kind of stuff. And Kendall's like, it doesn't matter, if she gets back with her husband, that's what she's going to do. She's a grown woman, she can make her own choices. And what's hard when you're seeing somebody that you love being hurt by somebody else, you're like, how can you go back to somebody like that? And I want to get out my shotgun and kill him.
But I don't know. That's such a tricky bit of business. My Tara. Tara has worked in a couple of different domestic violence shelters, and she, when she was much, much younger, she was an officer with the police in the town where she grew up. And my cousin is a victim witness coordinator. That's what she went to school for. So, her point is to help victims find resources and help feel less victimized, mm-hmm. right? So, I've talked to them a lot, and throughout their exposure and their involvement in all the, domestic violence shelters and whatnot, and the whole time I'm just thinking, wow, you guys are so patient, because I would just think, just don't be there. If you don't want to be victimized, don't go back. And that's just such a narrow way to think about it. It's so much more complex than that. And
if it was black and white, it'd be a hell of a lot easier for women to leave whomever is abusing them.
Yeah, it's a difficult subject, and I don't know. Hopefully, I didn't trivialize it too much.
No, so. It wasn't trivialized, and also what you avoided, which could have been not great, is weighing down the book with the subplot.
Well, it wasn't intended to be the book. It was intended to be the flavor of a family.
Oh yeah, no, I know. But when something as serious as domestic violence comes up, it's not like I have to make sure the book's upbeat so that people. But still, I appreciated that, because if it was done poorly, it could have hijacked the plot.
Yeah.
And
thanks.
You're welcome.
I really want to be like super charming right now, and it's just, I don't know. I think I've got about 4 of 8 cylinders firing.
You're doing fine, Jove.
So cylinders. So now I'm going to chase the rabbit across the room. We're going to talk about something that just blows my mind. We have a Honda Pilot, right? Because that's about the only car that will seat all of my children. And it has a lot of cylinders, and it has this function, this gas-saving function, where if it's in idle, or if it's cruising at a set speed, like freeway speed, it shuts off like half the cylinders because it doesn't really need them in order to maintain speed. And I'm just terrified for the day when the computer doesn't tell the cylinders to turn back on. Anyway, that was, I know, sorry, complete.
Now that just made me think, well, like, I can't, it's so funny when some things can be a spoiler when you wouldn't imagine that they would be. And you know what I'm talking about. So this Lonnie Truval, I think it would, I don't know, when I as if I was in it or watching it as a movie. I just didn't see Casey as much of a fuck up as it all seems. I think she made a bad decision, of course, but her heart was invested, and you know, not like everybody's gonna like, oh yeah, cry on my shoulder about this affair that you're having with somebody. But there was a part of her whose heart was getting broken by constantly, you know, taking the crumbs and scraps from Lonnie and oftentimes being left high and, well, not so dry. And yeah,
but there was a reason that I started the book with them at the end of their relationship, so Casey could be sympathetic. How much would you sympathize with that character who's starting the affair with the married woman?
Well, it'd be one of those things where, like, you know, it's like horror films. Don't go down the stairs. Don't go up the stairs. Don't run through the forest. Why are you driving through the desert with no gas? What's wrong with you? And I mean, no matter what, characters are people too. And, you know, the mistakes that they make and the foibles that they have. But what I thought was fairly well crystallized was, she had a huge crush on Lonnie growing up, and she knew her well because she's their mom's best friend, and they were in the choir together and shared Sunday dinners together. And so it wasn't just her falling into bed with some hot babe. It was, you know, probably a crush, the first crush that she had when she realized she likes girls that way. And so there's like a part of her that has that childlike stupidity where you kind of go for, you know, what is exciting and thrilling, and oh my God, she wants to be with me, like the coolest girl in school wants to date me. And so, like, I think it gave the situation a little more depth than it would have had if she was just with somebody catting around. Because even she said herself, I'm always monogamous in my relationships, even though I don't demand it from others.
Wasn't it just sad? I felt so bad for her.
Right?
Oh, honey, get some self-esteem.
Yeah. And I didn't get a handle on how lost and a little stupid she is about women until Emma called her on it. And I was just like, oh. There's so many owie conversations in the book.
She really grows up a lot, I hope.
She did. She did. And also it's a try, and Emma's not perfect either.
No.
You know, she has a lot of lingering hang-ups, and, you know, seeing Casey as a fuck-up and not, you know, whatnot.
Well, yeah, but on the surface, right? Because, you know, Casey's a teacher. She has a well-established career. She's, you know, very devoted to her family and to her community. Right, so on the surface, she looks fine. And you look at Emma, and Emma is the product of a divorced family, which is kind of a big deal. And she's unemployed through most of the book, although I don't blatantly say that. I think it's fairly obvious, right? Mm-hmm. She smokes. That's a character flaw, I guess. I don't know. I used to smoke. Maybe that, I don't know. Anyway.
The only thing I just worried about, you know, like as if this is, I'll just give up. They're all real. And what I worry about is you do the crime, you do the time, so to speak. And I worry in the same way that Casey worried whether she would be constantly having to defend her position. And, you know, as if she would have earned,
Right.
somebody, pistol whipping her every once in a while in the heart, like, yeah, you did this, you did that. And I was like, can't you give her a break? Because if you don't give her a break, it's never going to work.
Yeah, but I love the fact that Emma wasn't willing to say, you know what, I want you no matter what. Like, she was willing to say, I want you, I love you, I know that we would be good together, but I also have a little bit of self-respect, and I just can't.
Well, that helps. It helps Casey grow up because she has to be a better woman to be with Emma.
Yeah. We all need that, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, at the same time, you have to give Casey a chance to succeed rather than constantly be defending her past indiscretions.
Yeah, but she had so many chances to end the relationship, and she just kept dicking it around. Come on.
Yeah.
She needed to be smacked a little bit.
Well, that segues really well into the other
Smacked a little bit.
into the other book that I am reviewing for this episode, and it's 3 erotic novellas. Pat yourself on the back. That's very interesting. And it's called Uncommon Romance, and there's some really unusual fucking in this book.
Yeah, I think that, and it wasn't a conscious goal, but I think subconsciously my objective when I started that project was to just touch on every single taboo I could find.
Oh,
I think that's it.
I was like, oh dear Lord.
Did you read all of it?
Yes, I did. I read all 3. And
It was fun to write.
Yeah, like, they're great, although the last one I had a hard time with.
What was the Hollis?
Yes.
Oh, the FBI whatever?
Yeah, because
yes.
I love me all kinds of different erotic expressions, and especially BDSM stuff. I find it fascinating.
Okay.
But I felt like the emotional element wasn't there for Hollis and Jude. Like, Jude was, one of the things that's typical of a submissive or somebody who's being bottoming is, pushing their body and their minds and their emotional limits and trusting the top to drive, so to speak. But I actually was kind of surprised, that Hollis wanted something with her.
When I started that story, see, here's the thing. I'm going to tell you, Liz, deep down inside, and I am just a complete sappy romantic. And when I started it, I didn't see them maintaining any kind of relationship. I saw Hollis walking away and being, not Hollis, Jude walking away and Hollis moving on to the next. That's what I saw. Mm-hmm. And then I got into it and I'm like, no, because they have so much fun together. And so, whatever, they couldn't break up. So maybe it was me being sentimental with them. I don't know. It happens. But that's a hard dynamic to write because
and the reason why I bring it up, because I like so many different ways that it's been written. Like Isabella's done it really well with the American Yakuza series, and the pen name, of course, my brain's not going to click on that one. Was it The Collectors? I think that's the name of the book, and it was written by the perspective of like the ultimate bottom, and I was very impressed by that. And oftentimes the power dynamics are so much more clear, but what oftentimes people think or miss is the intimacy that's actually going on, and I didn't feel that intimacy between Hollis and Jude, and so I was kind of surprised when it ended that way. Also, how do you choose what point of view you're going to write a particular story in?
I don't know. It just...
Are you a pantster? It just happens?
Yeah. That's very, very much so. Yeah. No, sorry. I always know, well, I always think I know where it's going to start, where it's going to end, and a general arc for the middle, and then I write. And I don't typically limit to one point of view in a story. I usually bounce back and forth. So, like, Love and Devotion was weird and unique for me because it was from one point of view. And I think all but one, so 2 out of the 3 stories in Uncommon Romance were actually limited from one point of view too, which is, it's not what I normally do. So that was part of my challenge. But whatever. Anyway, how do I decide? I don't know. They just say it. They're demanding and bitchy. I don't know.
Well, stop talking about demanding. Well, no, I'm not going to go to On Her Knees next. I'm going to go to Raw Silk. And I had told you on Facebook and teased you that there was a line I was going to read from it that made me laugh really hard. It didn't take me out of the story. Let me just say that it wasn't like that. It was like that kind of kitchen sink clank, but it cracked me up. And so the quote is: "Cat cried out, and June pressed her tongue flat against her clit, just to say hello." And I'm like, just to say hello, like hello, clitoris.
Well, that was kind of intended to be funny, right? So.
Oh yeah. I was just like, I wasn't expecting humor there, but that worked. That worked.
I think the sex should be fun, and I think it should be funny. I think you should be able to laugh.
So in Love and Devotion, obviously we talked about how, Casey was having an affair.
Yes.
And then you have Raw Silk, which is some kinky ass shit.
Yeah, they do a lot of stuff, yeah.
And what I thought was really interesting was how Ash had kind of incorporated into her sex life with June this attraction to a client, and how they she embraced it and they played it out and had some really hot sex talking about another woman. And I was like, that's very interesting. And also, as a rule of thumb, usually threesomes are very dangerous for relationships. And you really shouldn't go there, and it changes relationship dynamics. So for me, I would think it would be hard for it not to be destroyed.
I think that a lot of things that you're going to read in fiction, so like threesomes in particular, are one of those things that sound really, really, really sexy, but until you're there, you're not going to know how you're going to react to it emotionally. I know that I, in theory, have no objection to it, but I am not willing to share Tara at all, ever, like in practice and reality. So I think that it's one of those fantasies for me that just really sounds delicious, but I don't think it would translate real well to my real life.
I liked it because it was unexpected, and you never know what kind of jealousy will ensue, because women, in general, I feel like there's some ungodly connection between our wombs and our hearts. And even if we think we're going into something that is, that they can handle, and June isn't so sure she could handle what would happen to her marriage if she let this very pushy individual, who's incredibly hot, into their home or into their bed or anything along those lines. And one of the things that she was hemming and hawing about was because even though she was incredibly turned on and attracted to this woman, she's like, my marriage is way too important to ruin it for a hard-on.
Don't you love that about her? I do. I love that.
It's true.
Yeah.
And
she still does it, though.
Yes, she does. It's that the temptation is too great.
But she doesn't do anything until she has permission, so you got to give her credit for that. I guess.
And also, what I thought was great is Kat didn't get to play carnivorous, steamroll engine the first time that they are intimate in their AT&T three-way.
Wasn't that fabulous?
Yeah, calling it in.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun. So, to let you guys know what Liz is talking about, the first time that the three of them are together, one of them is actually on the phone they're using FaceTime on the iPhone, so it's like, the iPhone version of Skype. So, which is just really, who does that? Somebody somewhere is living some amazing fantasy life, because I can't just be making this shit up.
No, of course not.
Yeah, so I really, really love that. That story and Hollis both. So Raw Silk and Hollis both started life as a short story that, oh God, I don't even remember which. They were both in anthologies. I don't remember which ones right now. But then the rights reverted back, and I said, I should do something else with these, and so I expanded them. And they're all like ideas that could have gone further into full-blown novels, but I really just wanted to play with them a little more. I didn't want to marry them. So,
well, you can either. There are some folks who like to write short fiction, and others who only write short fiction, and then there are those who think that they can write short fiction or a novella, and then it always grows into a novel. How do you feel about it yourself? About
writing the three different kinds of fiction?
Yeah. How do you see yourself as a writer? Do you find yourself to be generally a novelist who writes short fiction on occasion, or?
Yes, what you said. That one.
That one right there.
Yeah, I really need like little bubbles and check boxes. I just just tell me A, B, or C. I check it off, and whatever. Yeah. So no, but here's the thing, that until you write a book for the first time, and maybe it only happens to me, but there's a point in the middle of every single story where you go, oh my God, I'm never going to finish this thing. And I start to hate it and myself just a little bit. Uh-huh. So the thing that's really nice about taking a break in writing, especially like short stories, I just wrote a short story for an anthology that, God, I sent you the thing.
Yeah, it's boys.
Yeah. I just wrote a story for that, and it's really, really nice to sit down and write a short story and be done with it in a day. Like, oh look, I started it, I'm done with it. Unlike this novel that I've been working on my entire life. Yeah. So, but the reality is, it's really hard to get down everything you want to get down in 3,500 to 6,000 words. So, anyway, no, I primarily write novels.
Yeah, I've asked different folks who, there are those who only do short fiction, and they like the potence to it, and as everyone knows, writing is a craft. It's a skill, in addition to the inspiration, and writing short fiction is a challenge because you need to be brief to a certain degree, but you still have to develop the characters and have a plot and whatnot. And it's more challenging, and it doesn't always translate there. Some novelists are simply incapable of crystallizing a story into 10 to 15 pages or 30 pages, and it shows. Because you can't have the same arc and build as you would in a short story. You really have to. It all has to be there. It all has to be going on, and I admire those who can accomplish that, even in flash fiction, which is when it's extremely short. It could be a couple of paragraphs or so, and I'm like, wow, that is not easy.
It is not. It's kind of like a haiku.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. I tend to want to explore the hell out of the minutia of things, like the details of of people's lives, and that works okay with shorter stuff. So I think it's fun.
So,
I like it all, damn it. I just really like my job. I've got the coolest job ever.
You have like the coolest job ever.
Yeah, ever.
And you're right. You wrote some really edgy shit for this Uncommon Romance, not a trilogy, but like 3 novellas. And On Her Knees is pretty serious stuff.
Yeah.
And the
therapy and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing that I found, well, when you have, it's not always a butch character, but if you have a character that is inscrutable to a certain degree, it's hard to know what they're thinking, obviously, by the nature of it. And what I often find entertaining is reading books where you do get to see what's kind of going on behind the butch curtain. And
it's some little short man pulling levers.
Yeah, I know. But I had the one thing that I had a tough idea with was how Abby didn't quite know where she stood with Simone, other than the drive-by fuckings. Like, did that just happen?
Yeah, they're not great communicators, those two.
No, it's my panties are still around my ankles. Where are you going?
They were a lot of fun to play with, those two.
I know, though I was appalled at the lack of consent before waking up tied up. I was just like, oh, you do not, you don't bind the uninitiated without kind of checking in with them a little bit before it happens. I don't think I'd be okay with waking up, but by the way, the dream that she was having when she started realizing that something was off or that she was bound was great. I think there was glitter and snow involved.
I think there are so many things about the relationship and the power dynamic between the two of them that were not okay. Like, that's definitely not okay. You don't do that to someone. But I feel that way about the vast majority of the things that they did together.
Oh my God. And
there was a lot of anger there, and they had issues.
Oh my God.
Serious issues.
And I just was, okay. I found the blowjob really appalling.
Yeah?
Mostly not too much information, but it's an activity I enjoyed, but I would never do or want to receive a blowjob that was so deep throat that if you were literally feeling the throat of the person who's the recipient, you can feel it in their throat. I was like, oh my God, that's just...
Yeah, but the whole point of everything it was all about being over the top and pushing boundaries and... Yeah.
Oh no, I completely understand. I was like, oh.
So let me make sure I understand this correctly. You didn't really like any of the stories, is that...
No! I thought they were really hot, and Raw Silk, oh my God. That's why, after I read Raw Silk, I actually... I Facebooked you and I said, I think this book needs to come with either an ice cold shower or a complimentary vibrator.
Yeah, I don't know that I can supply either one of those and still remain married.
No. And the screaming is my niece, for those of you who are wondering what the shrieking is.
I didn't even hear it, so I think you're okay.
Okay, cool. No, I did like them. And I just had a hard time with the last one. It wasn't that I didn't like it. I had a hard time sticking with, I don't know. Of course, it's like that archetypal hard-ass instructor. Although, I think I'm more, when it comes to instructors, I like Kelly McGillis in Top Gun.
Oh, God, yes.
I was like, I like that. I like that a lot.
I think there's a very real possibility that people won't like any of them. Like, there's some content that definitely is going to make people question my...
I mean, for me, because you're so happily married, I was like, what? I was like, what the fuck with raw silk? But that was hot. And one of the difficulties with erotica, even if it's like in a short story or novella form, it's very difficult to keep on going with a sexual scene at length, or the seduction at length, without it, after a certain point, people losing their patience with it, unless it's very well written. And I felt like I was with her during it, and I was like, oh my God, her wife's going to let her do that?
Her wife wanted her to do that.
Oh my God. But what I thought was really great about the relationship in it is, no matter how aroused June was, she wouldn't be comfortable with a sexual encounter with Kat without her wife to help her through it.
Yeah. And
oh my God, I mean, the sex that they had in the office was just amazing. And then, oh my God, Kat's vicious. When she finally, was able to be in charge and whatnot. But even still, like, the sweetness and the being grounded and connected, that was all happening between June and her wife, regardless of what craziness Kat was doing, which was incredibly sexy, not something that, it's not something from the vanilla cart, so to speak.
Yeah, no, it would have been a totally fine encounter on its own. It just would have felt different. It would have been flavored differently, yeah.
No, totally. And I wanted, for On Her Knees, I really wanted Simone to get her shit together.
She's trying to.
Yeah.
She had a therapist. She was trying.
No, I mean, they did make a lot of progress, and what I thought was great about her was, even though she would be stony at some points with a very awesome therapist that was unflappable, was that she's like, oh fuck, like, even if she didn't want to deal with what she was supposed to be doing, what was the right thing to do, she ultimately made those adjustments.
She was a little dense, though. That girl, just a little dense.
A little. She and she was hung up on the past, which, heck, there are plenty of us lesbians who do hold on to the past a little bit too much.
Especially if it traumatized you in some way.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, but I'm gonna close our interview a little earlier than I normally do, because my partner has been patiently waiting with our little puppy in the maelstrom that is, having a lot of holiday guests home. But I'm glad I read both Love and Devotion. I liked seeing it as a final product, and I did I was intrigued, and my sex nerd spidey senses were up. Like, I was fascinated by it, like the different things that you had happen in it, and definitely you whacked the hell out of some taboos.
When in Uncommon Romance?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was, whatever, it was a lot of fun to write, and it's probably gonna upset all sorts of people, and I'm really sorry, but it was a lot of fun to write.
Oh my God. Sometimes people are just going to be upset. There's nothing you can do about it. But I think that it's worth checking out. It's one of the beauties of fiction is that you can be sexually adventurous and intellectually in your head, or let the characters do that for you and do things that you would never imagine doing in real life.
Yeah, no, most of that stuff would get me divorced. Tara's not going to be all like, yeah, sure, you can do that to me. No. Mm-mm.
Nuh-uh.
No. But I wanted to tell you, I think this is interesting because you were most pleased with raw silk, right? So,
oops, hold on.
Okay, where were we?
Folks, I had to take a pause because my partner had an obscenely bizarre ringtone that happened.
It was awesome. It was like a children's toy.
and the iPhone.
Any conversation about erotica.
Yes. So you were saying about.
Yeah, no, the three stories in Uncommon Romance. So it has Raw Silk, and then it goes into On Her Knees, and then to Hollis. And the way that the stories are ordered, I went with the sweetest, most romantic. So Raw Silk, even though it has, a very unconventional theme, right? So, there's threesomes abounding, but it's still by far the sweetest story in there.
Absolutely.
To, these, with On Her Knees, they're very much they're still very much in love. They're fucked. They can't figure out how to communicate it. So it went from the sweetest to by far the hardest of the three stories. So, and I just think it's interesting that the one that you picked up on to enjoy the most was the one that was the sweetest. Yeah. That says something about you, Liz McMullen.
Yes, it does. I am a hopeless romantic.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
Oh, will you stop? I thought I just turned off the volume completely, but apparently not. And for fuck's sake, we're just trying to close out a perfectly good interview. Please.
Anyway, so look, my baby just came in. Say hi, Lily.
Hi.
Hi, Lily. Good morning.
That's Liz. She's looking at the computer like, why are you talking? She's still half asleep. Anyway, sorry.
It's okay. But yeah.
Are we done?
Carry on. This will be my most bumbling interview.
The sleep deprivation definitely contributes.
But yeah, I did. Yeah, what I did see, I felt like you stretched yourself pretty good with all the different emotions and expressions of passion, and you definitely went there. So if anybody's looking for something to push their boundaries, Uncommon Romance is a good place to go with it. And also, I have to say that even if it's not your cup of tea, it can be absolutely fascinating.
Well, I'm a fan. It's my cup, so I'm a fan of erotica. I like it. It's fun.
Yes, it is. And thank you for bringing the fun at the crack of dawn on your side and not so the crack of dawn on my side. Yeah, and right. I've enjoyed having you on, and I'm going to make you come on again sometime in the future.
Yeah, I promise to be more awake next time. That'll be awesome.
That would be sweet.